relief that you did this and you're proud of yourself. But one tip for when you are setting goals, don't overestimate yourself. Don't tell, oh, I'm going to win this thing. Don't overestimate yourself, but don't underestimate yourself. Don't say like, oh, I'm not gonna do well on this competition. So basically, be positive, but don't be too overwhelming on yourself. Okay, so basically to review my 3 tips I'm going to give you for how to prepare for your competition, and maybe next week you could do this before field day. So number 1 is to take a long shower, relax your body, don't do anything too strenuous, and then to also eat healthy, drink water, eat fruit, eat your vegetables, and if you're running a lot on field day, you could carbo load. It helps with your performance. So anything that could help your performance physically. Tip number 2 is to meditate. So remember how I was like, breathe in through the nose and out through your mouth and count every time. It really does help, and completely block out all kinds of thoughts in your head. Just blank mind and just count while you breathe. It really does help, relieves the stress, and focuses your mind for the next day. And my last and final tip was to set goals for yourself. Don't overestimate, don't underestimate, but be positive about your performance. And yeah, thank you.
Good job, Caroline. Next, our third presenter, Chen. How to be a good listener. How to be a good listener. Chen.
Good afternoon, everyone, fellow Toastmasters, Mr. Coordinator, parents. Today, I'm going to be speaking to you about how to be a good listener. Now, all of you are probably listening to my speech. Well, I hope you are at least. And then as you listen, hopefully you can pick up some tips on how to be a good listener. I know that sometimes you'll have a few speakers that are pretty boring. Hopefully I'm not boring you right now. And I would consider you pretty crazy if you've never had at least one person that bores you. However, I'd still like to make the point that it's still important to listen no matter what or who the speaker is or what you're listening to. And I'd also like to make the distinction between understanding and listening, because understanding is key in order to being a good listener. So my first method into being a good listener is to pay attention. Now, I believe that paying attention can be hard, but it can also be easy. I think the most simplest thing you can start off with is to maintain eye contact. I think that if you maintain eye contact, you'll naturally be directed towards the speaker, and the words will start coming to your brain, and you'll understand what the speaker is saying. Biggest example, I'm in my world history class. My teacher is so boring. World history is so boring. I don't like the class. I found that I was sleeping because I was just looking at my paper. But I found out that if I looked at my teacher, if I looked at what he was writing, I was effectively learning, I was paying attention, and I started to do better in world. Now I have a B instead of a C. Sorry, Mom. Second method in being an effective listener is to not be distracting. Now, I'm talking about people that are texting or talking or just talking to themselves or talking when the speaker is talking, and that's not very good at all. Not only are you showing disrespect to your speaker, you're going to be disruptive to other peers that are actually listening. And in my world class again, there are going to be some students that are just talking while the teachers are talking, and it turns out I don't learn anything. That's why I'm doing so bad in world. Sorry, Mom. My teacher's not that good. But it's also important to have respect for your speaker, because they could be putting in a lot of effort in what they're teaching, and I believe that whatever point they're trying to get across must be important if you are to listen, if they want your attention and your respect. The third method I have in being a good listener is to have patience. This could mean simply nodding your head while the speaker is talking, or you could ask questions when the speaker's finished. And it's important to have patience because, like, not only are you going to be in a situation where you're listening to your teacher speak, it's pretty boring, that can be pretty boring. But then you're gonna have some friends that are gonna come up to you with some problems like, Brian, I have this prom problem, what do I do? And then you have to learn to take in whatever they're saying and take it to heart because whatever they're saying must be important if they're coming to you for help. So basically 3 methods in being an effective listener is to pay attention and to not be distracting and to have patience. But I believe that you must have a balance of all 3 in order to be successful. One can easily not have patience and pay attention, or one can be distracting and have patience. It's important to have all 3 of those aspects in order for you to be a good listener. So, questions, anyone? No, I got you. You should wait till you're done speaking. And I encourage you all to go listen, not only with your ears, but with your heart. Thank you.
Good job, Brian. Next, our 4th speaker, Katherine Liu. How to be a well-rounded and likable person. How to be a well-rounded and likable person. Katherine Liu.
Good afternoon, Mr. Coordinator, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. Now, when I say well-rounded, I don't necessarily mean well-rounded. However, this is well-rounded and likable. Now, have you ever been in those situations where you have thought, oh shoot, I have gone through this interview, this talk, this discussion, and I've said all the wrong things? Well, I know I have. I've been in so many situations where I just thought that was not polite at all, I should have said this, I was definitely wrong about it. Well, now you probably think I'm going to go into some big spiel, big talk about all the important things you need to do. No, there are mainly 3 things. First, you gotta be attentive. Second, you have to be able to give good advice. And third, you have to be polite. Now first, to be attentive, you have to be a good listener. As Brian said in his earlier speech, all of those matter. But mainly, you have to look at the speaker, make eye contact with them. If it's a one-on-one, you make eye contact with them. And, well, you have to nod every once in a while to show that you really understand and you care. Even if you think what they're talking about is kind of pointless, like if they're rambling about their problems, their personal problems you really don't care that much about, you should still pay attention because it's always good for the future. In my classes, there are classes where I'm sitting there thinking, what is good, what am I learning here that is good for me in the future? Well, there must be a reason why you're taking the class, so you have to use it in the future. Maybe to impress your friends with unknown facts that you only know, or maybe to impress adults in interviews that you're trying to get a job for. Now second, to give good advice, you have to dig deep into your heart. Now even though my advice comes from the internet, movies that I've watched, older people that I've talked to, I still take that advice into consideration, dig deep down, and use it to help people out. Now, I also use quotes. Let's say I use Confucius says. Now, there's a quote that I know. Confucius says, eat more rice. Now, that may not be the right words, that might not be the right quotes, but I can make that into some big, deep thought that, it means you have to be healthy. Now third, to be polite, you have to have common courtesy. This means addressing your speaker, addressing your person, saying, good afternoon, Mr. Sukri, Mrs. Chen, all those. Now, not to put you guys on the spot or anything, just some examples.
Now, I know everyone's parents has told them that they have to have some kind of common politeness, well-mannered. I know my mom has. My mom has taught me all these important things I have to do to show respect to my elders. And yes, those are all good. So, kids, listen to your parents. They give good advice. Now, to be polite, you can't necessarily go off and do your own thing as soon as, say, they're done talking. You can't run off and be like, oh, thank goodness that was over. No, that's not right. You have to maybe stay after a little bit and show them that you actually care and you're trying to help them. Like, for example, a few of my friends have come to me for relationship advice. I may not be the best person to talk to, but I show them that I care and I actually help them. Now, they keep coming back to me for advice, so obviously I'm doing something right. Now, overall, the 3 main points are be attentive, be able to give good advice, and be polite and well-mannered. Now, I'm not a perfect human being. I'm just an average human being. But if you have these 3 things to some degree, it will definitely help you in the near future. Thank you.
Good job. Next speaker, speaker number 5, Wei-Lee Wu. How to effectively manage time. How to effectively manage time. Wei-Lee Wu.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters, Mr. Coordinator, and welcome guests. Today I'm here to explain how to effectively manage your time. So, in the next upcoming 2 weeks, there are AP exams, SATs are coming up. I've been freaking about, oh, what should I do? How do I plan this? I'm here to explain 3 ways how to effectively manage time. First is to sketch a schedule every day when you come home from school or from any time to list out all your activities. Second is to use a calendar to keep track of your due dates and deadlines or your applications or anything. And third is always keep track of your time, so always have devices that helps you keep on track. So first point is to use a schedule. So every day when I come home from school, I would sit down instead of hitting the books already. I would relax a bit, think to myself, what do I have for homework today or any after school activities I have to do? I would sit down and sketch out a schedule. So if you guys just take one and pass them back. So as on the schedule you guys are about to get, I would list out. It doesn't have to be tight. It can be handwritten. So you can have things to do as your first column, your time start and your time end. So in this way, you can have an idea of how to keep your time and keep yourself on schedule. The time does not have to be stringent or really rigid. You can be flexible, maybe plus or minus 15 minutes to your time if you feel like you can finish the subject. So looking at it, you can have your objectives, and then if you don't finish objectives between that time period, move on. Keep doing your homework until you finish early. You can go back to things you haven't done yet. So on to the second method. Second method is the use of a calendar. Now, it doesn't have to be fancy where you have food on the back to like seduce you or anything, but you can print it out from Google or go just have boxes and list out all the dates. So if you want to pass it back around to have everybody look at it. So you can have calendars. You can have schedules of, oh, on May 4th, I have an SAT 2 test. I'm taking 3 of them, and then May 5th, we have the field day. So I gotta keep to myself. During that weekend, I have to finish my homework earlier, so I have time to do those events. So going on, there's a lot of things you can do with just those 2. So for example, for me, like 2 weeks ago, I had a lot of schedule conflicts. I couldn't do my violin lessons on